Game on. Kia ora, everybody. What's up? It is Robett. Welcome to Robett Live. Mate, we've just got heavy hitter after heavy hitter after heavy hitter rolling through the stream. It's the bro, Andrew Slater. How are you, my friend?
Very good, thanks. Kia ora, welcome.
Chief Executive Officer, Homecare Medical. You're a brain. You know a lot about a lot of stuff. For those who are unaware of who you are and what you do, give us a quick little 101 context.
Yeah, so kia ora everyone. My name's Andrew Slater. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of an organisation called Homecare Medical, but fundamentally our job is to run and deliver on behalf of the New Zealand government, the National Telehealth Service, which includes running services like Healthline, 1737, etc. And I think it's the coolest job in the world, and it's an enormous privilege.
So basically, you're the glue on comms and connection and education for a whole bunch of people that need to know a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah, so our job is to, virtually support people in New Zealand when they need health or social care, and then connect them with that. That's our ambition. We don't like stuffy visions and missions. So that's our ambition. That's what we turn up to work every day to do. Normally, we're an organisation of 450 people, but in the last sort of 4 weeks, we've grown to be just over 1,100 people.
Jeez. So you're an essential service, which is why you're at the office? Or is this your house that literally is like a boardroom?
No, this is definitely not my house. This is my office. So internally, we've got a goal to try and get as many people work from home with our IT team at the moment. And my brief to IT is I ain't leaving my office until everyone else has got home. So,
there you go. So leadership 101 there. You're like some Elon Musk shit. So you're not sleeping in the office though? You're not that gay,
no,
no.
No.
Okay, cool.
No, not quite. But certainly we've got we've built 5 call centres actually in the last few weeks, so we could physically distance everyone, which has been one of our many challenges in the last few weeks.
So are you saying 1,100 staff now that's all going virtual in the last 4 weeks? Is that right?
So we've got, so normally as an organisation, about half our organisation works from home, Kaitaia to Bluff anyway. And what we're doing at the moment is we've gone from 450 to 1,100. And of that, at the moment, we've got about 70% of that working from the comfort of their own homes.
Yeah, nice. So communication, online virtual technology integration to help with comms and community. What's been the coolest thing you've seen with tech come to the forefront to help make Kiwis' lives better in this last month? What's been a bit that you're like, shit, yeah, this wouldn't have popped 10 years ago?
Look, for me, would have been the fact that our IT team, in partnership with our IT partners, have managed to pull off a 5-month technology project in 7 working days. So that was, it was pretty phenomenal. And what we needed to do, because of the scale of the response required for New Zealand, was scale our technology, build whole new systems, processes, virtual desktops, and get those out. And the problem that IT now has is that I now want to know why everything can't be that quick.
Okay, so we'll jump there because I think this is a great segue. So I was talking to Victoria Crone, CEO of Callaghan Innovation. She said, it's surprising what can actually happen at speed when the people actually want it to. And I think I've been mulling over the last couple of weeks where, now this has become a vehicle for change of like forced innovation with integrated technology into businesses with comms or whatever. But now there's going to be this, exactly to your point there, Andrew, which I think is money, it's like, well, why can't we ... If we did this ridiculously huge, virtualization of an entire ecosystem with logistics and a shit show, why can't we ... Do you think this is now, do you think it's more pressures on CEOs or boards to be braver around adaptation of new ways of thinking around how business can be done better?
Yeah, I think the funniest cartoon that I've seen over this whole event was the who led the digital transformation of your company, the CEO, the CTO, or the COVID-19.
Totally.
But look, I actually think it's all down to partnership. So at the end of the day, we would never have been able to pull off what we've pulled off here in the last few weeks if it hadn't been for our relationships and partnerships across the New Zealand tech and commercial and NGO health sectors. because it's been able to work from a basis of trust. And one of my observations is, I think, procurement as we've known it just before COVID, we talk about BCAC here, before COVID, after COVID.
Oh, yeah, I got your PCAC, yep. Pre and after, nice, good job, yep.
And so one of the things that we'd always kind of worked on was, rather than sort of have a blunt procurement supplier relationship with many of our suppliers and partners, we'd always had kind of joint values, vision, mission about how we'd come together to get a 1 + 1 = 4. And it's that's enabled us to go quickly and fast and do things, because they've become relationships of trust pre-COVID. Whereas I think some of the traditional kind of procurement processes we've been using in business in New Zealand may have prevented, certainly if we had approached this in a very traditional procurement sense, or in a traditional business relationship sense, we wouldn't have been able to pull off what we've been able to do.
Do you feel that it's because there's a clear aligned purpose with no bullshit in the middle, where you know exactly what you're there to do, so there's no other, it's flat, there's no other games being played, there's no other like forces at stake with politics or strategies or just any of the other stuff? Do you think it's just, in a weird sense, for as horrible as it is from medical side, it's become quite pure on not only politics but commerce, because it's actually about the people, not about the rest of it?
Look, I think at the end of the day, every person that I've come across or that I know of in New Zealand has a single goal at the moment, which is Aotearoa becomes COVID-19 free. And so to have that level of alignment across sectors, business, everyone on a single purpose for NZ is really powerful. It's actually really cool.
For as shit as it is for the why, the byproduct and outcome for so many different businesses, and the net at the end, as long as hopefully people are safe, it's going to be good for us. But yeah, simultaneous. So I've had this thing for a question for ages that I've asked everyone that has a massive brain, which is a lot more than me, and I said, okay, the Treaty of Waitangi brought together culture and community. What has been the moment since where culture, community, and commerce have been in the same thing for a moment for New Zealand that's connected all three? And there hasn't been one. The only one that arguably people talk about is potentially the All Blacks, where the nation comes together, unity of purpose for a moment. I was like, yeah, but with that, we still lead with culture, and it's blah, blah. It's not pure for people in commerce, right? And I was talking with Jolie, actually, we were talking about it, and where I was like, wait a second, this is that moment, because Corona has actually connected all of commerce, all of community, all of culture, everything on the exact same thing. So it's become a unity of purpose for New Zealand. And what has become very clear is the momentum and unity of positivity within Kiwis with each other, compared to a lot of different other countries. It's making everyone feel quite proud to be a Kiwi, quite proud to see the leadership that we have, the way that the government's acted with certain things, and just the way communities are coming together. So I think that must make you feel more hopeful, bad for the genesis of why, but still positive for what could be, right?
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting is, what are we going to take from COVID to our new normal that is fantastic? Look, there's lots of crap stuff that's gone on with COVID. There's lots of pain. There's lots of things that I wouldn't want in my daily life, whether it's lining up at the supermarket, or whether it's having to feel restricted in my home in the weekend when I really want to go see my mates. But there's actually some fantastic things that have changed. If you look at what's happened in the health sector, we've almost fast-forwarded digital transformation decades in a number of weeks. And so how do we actually take the great as leaders and cement and lock that in for the post-COVID world? And take advantage of that. How do we build a better Aotearoa at the end of this, given we've got that platform of common kind of alignment?
It's like a new set of train tracks, right? And we've got this new frame of virtualization, digitalization, remote, everything. Yes, for the pros and cons or whatever. So if in your head now, we've got this great foundation and framework of digital. New Zealand in some ways been forced to digitally transform over the space of a couple of hours. What would you like to see being built first on those train tracks?
Oh, I think closer communities. So I think we've got this huge kind of coming together of those three parts, but we need to continue to leverage that technology, because a lot of the technology is being used to help enforce isolation. So how do we actually take those train tracks and actually use them to build unity, um, collective responsibility, collective communities and things, as opposed to why they've been created largely, which is to keep us all working and in our homes. I'm FaceTiming my mother for the first time in her life because I don't know why. Like, she lives in the Wairarapa, I live in Auckland. We've had our weekly phone call, but all of a sudden we're FaceTiming, and we're actually really enjoying it after I got through the pain of teaching her how to use FaceTime for an hour.
The green button.
So I really want
to.
yeah, answer it like a phone call. And so I just think I just think we need to make sure we need to do a little pivot on why we've created these rails, and make sure we use them for the good things that are coming out of it.
Yeah. So on that, the good things that come out of it, a lot of sectors are stuffed right now. Some of them will pop harder on their return. Obviously, we don't know the timings of some of it. Where do you think, what's your biggest fear? For what part of New Zealand are you most fearful about?
Look, at the moment, we're really concerned about those New Zealanders that are in their home that aren't reaching out for health and social care that they so desperately need, whether that's food, accommodation, having a healthcare need. So my greatest fear is that we drift further apart as communities rather than connecting and caring. So that's sort of my fear as I drive in every day. I think some of the greatest opportunities is some of the innovation that we've been able to achieve. So, for example, we've got 200 travel agent staff that we have trained to give non-clinical health information to New Zealanders. Those guys are taking a couple of thousand calls a day. If you'd said to me 4 months ago, I would have taken 3 weeks of classroom education, condensed it into 2 days, done micro skilling of my workforce, and trained travel agents to help New Zealanders. And they would be doing an excellent job of that. It was safe, and the customers and the New Zealanders calling were really satisfied. I wouldn't have believed you.
So just quickly on that, are you saying you took, because the travel crew are stuffed, so you retrained them into yours from a different vertical? Was that your idea?
Look, it was a
team effort, but
but
you woke up in the night and you wrote some shit down.
We were trying to work out how to get big chunks of workforce really quickly, and look, it's very smart. It's very publicly known some of the wait time where we'd let New Zealand down a little bit, and so aside from that, we used to do about 700 calls a day in Healthline. Some days we've done 15, 16,000. And so we needed to think completely differently about how did we train that workforce, how do we micro-credential it, how do we skill it, and how do we quickly get it on the phone safely to help New Zealanders. And so I think we just have to think differently about these workforces and the capacity and capability. Like these guys are absolutely fantastic at building rapport and providing information. So how do we take those workforces that might be economically impacted by COVID and look at their capability and redeploy them to the future Aotearoa? That's the cool thing.
Just going to say the redeployment of it. I've got a friend in the tourism sector who's working on something very, very exactly in this exact realm of how do you create and build that database of those who have specific skill sets and then redeploying them throughout different parts of New Zealand that need it. So I wanted to duck in on. So I'd seen this thing as waves, right? The first wave of medical, let's make sure we get through, beat this thing down, make sure health is good, number one. 2, there's obviously this part about commerce, the government kicking in for the subsidies, and now with the employers and taking up to 80% with the banks and all these other mechanics around. So it's kind of like health, wave 1, finance, wave 2, but this third piece, and this is where I'll tell you the quick thing is I did a little post on LinkedIn, and it was like March 24th or something. I said, classic, in 9 months time we're going to have a shit ton of Christmas Day babies, ha ha ha, 9 months, whatever. And then everyone, all these partners and shit, like force them with each other. And then someone goes, yeah, and divorces and domestic violence. And my brain was not there. And then all of a sudden I thought, I was like, oh shit, wait a second. Let me put myself in their shoes. Okay. So I'm 40-year-old someone, just lost my job, stress in a bad relationship. I come back home. Now I've got no live sport and I'm on the booze or drugs or whatever it is. And there are going to be many people who are in scared environments right now. And even like for talking with Lisa King from Eat My Lunch, a lot of children go to school for safety. Right. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, shit, imagine if I was then 11 in these worlds. And all of a sudden this big weight of community came on me when I was thinking about, okay, well, who's talking? And I even put a thing up, I think it'd be awesome if, why don't, a whole bunch of these unused hotels partner up with Women's Refuge, try and do something there. Why don't, there's going to be these waves. So in your head, what are the waves in community which you think aren't being talked about right now that should be being talked about? Because as a byproduct, I'd thought of these other things, but that wasn't where my brain was, because I guess I don't think in that world. But where do you think some different things around the community should be thinking for a lot of our conversational energy to go?
Yeah, look, I think you've touched on some of them, which is not all, sadly, not all homes in New Zealand are safe places to be, and often people being allowed to move out of them and around in their community is the respite they get from those. Certainly, what we're starting some conversations. We run a couple of services in this area. So we run a Safe to Talk, the National Sexual Violence Helpline, as well as a service around domestic violence as well. And what we're talking to other organisations in the NGO sector around how can we use technology that's being put in effectively to help people self-isolate, to actually help support people. You would have seen today the numerous announcements around some of the mental health e-therapies that are going to become funded. I think there's a wave slightly between that kind of economic and the health bit, which is really the psychosocial bit. So how do we?
What does that mean?
So mental health, effectively. Yep. But how do we prepare ourselves for this new normal? How do we build resilience in our psyche as a country for what this new normal might look like? I've got multiple friends who are in not in COVID growth. They're in the travel agent industry. They're pilots. My own household, my other half, he's in the entertainment business, and so the entertainment, the cinema and movie business is not a growth industry. So I do think it is about how do we actually build a psyche about where we go as a country post-COVID and build that new normal.
Yeah,
one of the really interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, dude, you go for it. I was just thinking because you're really smart. I'm just trying to decode it all. It's good.
Look, one of the things that I think, New Zealand's always had the kind of pure green feel. One of the interesting byproducts, I obviously get to travel into work every day from my community in Onehunga into the CBD, and we're on the fringe of the Domain. And it's been really interesting watching nature come alive in the Domain, whether it's more birds. Yep. I've seen more possums running across, which is probably not positive nature.
It's louder, but it's louder. It's speaking.
It is louder. And I can hear birds in my office. I don't normally, because there's normally lots of traffic and things driving past it. So I do think there are some great things that we had in this country before we headed into COVID. Our nature, our tourism sector, and I think the whole emerging kind of appreciation for our Māori heritage. And I'm really hoping that as we build our new normal, we can leverage those great strengths that we had pre-COVID and actually power them up for our post-COVID world.
Yeah, the reimagining phase right now, it hits every point, because there's a lot of uncomfortable truths around society and community we need to address. There's a lot of, weaknesses that have been in businesses which have been exposed, and there's a lot of, growth and hard conversations that a lot of people, even just a lot of people who are at home right now, thinking about, are they actually doing what they want to be doing? They've spent the last couple. I've got a friend of mine who's, he's a pretty busy dude and whatever, and he's just so pumped being at home, loving spending time with his kids, just like hyped. And he hadn't felt that in ages. And you were kind of wondering, man, has he prioritized the right thing? And he's thinking about these things now. So in a weird way, it's a great force reset to, almost like redesign that future, but then kind of reimagine what it could be and go into it. It's kind of cool.
I think so. Like, I mean, obviously we're losing a lot and we've lost a lot. And so I think, if we can think about the good that's come from it, think about the good that we had prior, and bring all of that together into whatever our new normal as individuals, businesses, community looks like, that's a hugely exciting opportunity.
What have you learnt that surprised you about humanity through this last month?
Ooh.
What's been something you like that you wouldn't have picked?
That I think when it all comes down to it, we actually care a lot about our neighbors.
Yeah.
So lots of people don't talk to their neighbors, got no idea who their neighbors are. But all of a sudden we hear on the front line, people phoning in, concerned about their neighbors, wanting to help their neighbors. I look at my own community and I look at the neighbors that I've reached over the fence to check they're okay. And I think that probably surprised me, because I think we'd all got so busy that largely we'd forgotten about our next door neighbors.
Busy being busy.
Yeah.
So when you look at the new normal of AC after Corona, right? What are you hopeful for?
I'm hopeful that we care as much about our neighbours as we have here, and what happens in our communities that perhaps we haven't. Perhaps some people have been a bit more ignorant towards. I'm hoping that we continue to accelerate our digital transformation, whether that's in schooling, whether it's in communities, and we do that for good, not because we're trying to reinforce self-isolation. So we see a flip on that. And I'm really hopeful that certainly in our environment, I'm hoping that the partnerships that we've relied on to get a 1 + 1 = 20 impact, we actually continue to work together and achieve those goals.
So with all these different partnerships, it takes, I guess, good leadership, right? How have you mentally reset your headspace, I guess, strategically, or with different, workflows or whatever your methodologies are, whatever, around having to lead this big business now, talking about, from 450, I think you were saying, to 1,100 in the last month. How have you reprioritized your headspace for being a new leader in this new, after Corona AC world? How have you approached it?
Yeah, so for us, it's a bit interesting working in a health sort of, I guess, frontline health emergency kind of basis, because our job's to kind of provide a bit of a dam to the system and try and work to use technology to get the people into the right place. Partly that's to avoid people entering, facilities that may be positive to coronavirus and getting them into testing or getting them a community response. So for us, in the very early days, it was running a very traditional hierarchical incident management structure. So we came out of our normal org chart into that. One of the things about the organisation is we were born in the cloud. So we founded the organisation as it is today in 2015 and pulled what we've got together. So that's been a huge advantage because we've been able to switch some platforms in a couple of places around support functions and things. But also what we've been able to do is we've had a bit of agility in the workforce. So organisational structure-wise, we've moved into what we call clusters, which may be a touch of black humor on my part. But what we've done is kind of organized ourselves into what we call our business clusters. So we've got a COVID cluster, a business as usual cluster, which we've stepped up our people to step into. We've then got finance and risk, comms, and a few others. But what's been interesting about that is one of the best things that we had done in our organisation, and I always get a bit titchy with kind of theoretical performance development, leadership development, kind of talent management. So we've always asked our leaders 3 questions every 6 months, which is, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, who can do your job? If we gave them development, who could do your job in a year's time? And who could do your job in 3 years' time if we really invested in them as leaders? And those are our 3 talent capability development kind of questions. And so we've always kept those lists, and we update them every 6 months. And then whenever we've done projects, we've looked for those people. You're not allowed to choose the same 3 people. So you're not allowed to like put, Mary in all 3. You've got to really think hard and then identify their needs. So what we've been able to do in growing the organisation is we dusted off that talent list, and we've been able to pull up and toy up some of our fantastic younger, capable leaders who had potential, put them in some leadership development training for kind of a few hours, micro learning. Whoops, you're now a manager. And
surprise.
Surprise. But really get them bringing their character to leadership and really get them, bringing along, owning we call them tribes, owning your tribe, focusing on our why. So making sure, our why in that team at the moment is, we hunt COVID. That's our why is we want New Zealand to be COVID free. We're part of that team. And how we do that is we hunt it. And so being able to be really clear on purpose but have at our fingertips that knowing where our leadership was going to come from in those teams has been great. And some of those, look, like everything, the vast majority of those people have really stepped up, and there's been some that we've had to support a bit more, or some who weren't quite ready.
I really, really like that. I love that because it like kind of nominates through, selection of the potential. The coolest one in that is not the first or second, it's the third of like, who could be that weapon? And that's the best because it shows hope for that future of I call it, the 3s and 4s will become the 1s and 2s. And certain people that I know are amazing at being able to pick the weapon super early. Just like, yep, that person, and 4 years is going to be that. And that's super cool. And then if you're that young buck, you get a little tap on the shoulder and it's like, hey, we think that you'd be great in this thing. I mean, that's got to be such an awesome morale boost and just mental like energy shift for just changing the perceptions of who they think they can be for the future. I think that is flipping rad, dude. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's cool.
Yeah, and look, it's a very selfish kind of approach because I'm kind of translating my own experience. I was very fortunate to become a chief exec just before I turned 30, and so it's been part of my mantra has always been, I got those opportunities because people mentored me, gave me opportunities to learn, and so I've kind of been a bit arrogant about making sure I do the same thing for people in my own organisation.
Dude, it's pay it forward. Don't feel bad at all. I think the more you do that, the better, because you never know where these young bucks will be able to do it. And a lot of them are just totally unaware that they could be that. Like that they're really maybe blinded to their own potential greatness. That's something that I mess with super heavy, man. Like, yeah, that's flipping rad. Here we go. Amber says, do the 1s, 2s, and 3s know that they are being looked at for progression? Oh, good call. Do the 1s, 2s, and 3s know that they've been looked at for progression?
Absolutely. So we have a program where we then stream them into different leadership journeys over that, depending on what time frame. And typically what we then try and do is if a leader's on, and we're a largely operational business, so if a leader's away on annual leave, they will act up their one or their two or their three to be able to explore that management and leadership role as well.
Yeah, that's cool. You said something before which I thought was interesting. You're saying the business 2015 was born in the cloud. Now, essentially, every single your business is probably not been as freaked out as a lot of other businesses because you understand what Google Teams is, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts. You know what Slack is. You understand how the internet works and how to push the green button to do FaceTime with your mum. You get that shit. What I'm interested in is for all these businesses who've been an offline/analog business that don't know what any of those words mean. What advice would you give those scared and fearful leaders or owners or small business owners or decision makers or CEOs or boards or whatever, that this is this foreign new crazy world that you're scared of? What advice would you give them from someone that was born in the cloud, trying to rope people into that new world instead of by force, but now through choice?
Look, a couple of things. So, first of all, before COVID came along, we were one of the highest users, apparently, of Microsoft Teams in Australasia. And that was because we made it a really cool, fun place to hang out and get information from. But this is going to sound really odd. One of the most important things to do is not forget the postal service. So our staff all work from home, and we still post them the staff newsletter and magazine. With and actually for Easter I threw a little block of chocolate in there. But I think actually people love the tactile, and so I think what you've got to be really careful about is that you use all of the channels. So we do video blogs, written blogs, team blogs. We kind of alternate it around a bit. We let our staff have social chat channels, classified chat in Teams and things. But don't lose sight of the connection that the physical has in a home environment. And so we're really careful. One of the things we've learned in having more than 250 staff work from home is that their physical connection to the organisation, you can get a little bit transactional. So they come to work, sit at their computer and do the tasks, and they lose the social connection and the tactical connection to the workplaces. We've done a lot of work over the last few years looking at, how we selected people, what kinds of homes, what we wanted people to be their home office and how that should be set up. But then actually doing a lot of work on, we post out our staff magazine and we post out bits of paper. We post out mice pads and things like that, which is to try and do that. The other thing is you can lose your sense of choice. And so one of the things that we've been very focused on is just because people are at home, we need to let them have choices. So, make sure that some of the stuff we're not as good as I'd like us to be at the moment because of global supply chains. But, I like the idea that people choose their headset, their mouse, their keyboard, because ultimately as humans, we like to be able to make some of our own choices and things. So certainly for us, you can get a bit clinical about the whole work from home thing, and you kind of got to embrace it like it's an office. We talk about the fact normally, and before COVID, we used to talk about the fact that we had 200 and something offices in New Zealand, and 250 of them had one person working in them, and the rest had more than one. Because what that did is it made sure when we were doing business process, we'd think about how we would respond to those people's needs if they were in the office versus treating them like they were sort of a poor cousin to the core.
I think it's a really good way you've broken that down. So, because I've been thinking about this idea, and it started from success online of what they think it was. And I give the example of, Snapchat came out one-to-one, closed off DMs. Facebook came out open to all. And over time, it made its way into the middle. And then now with this, it's like full all digi this way. And then you see this crazy big shift towards escapism, retreats, phone off, do not disturb. There's this balance off, right? And with the shift that we've gone to now, it's literally going from fully online and offline in the room, sit there, functional, transactional, physical location to now it's cloud, and what does that mean, and where are those tangible points? So it's that's the first time I've actually heard it, is you've got an online base, but you've got online connection points. And what I've been thinking about through this specifically is, as connected as we are, as gluey as we are, as tribal as we are, as instinctual as we are for that, everyone is missing sitting down next to someone, look them in the eyes, have a high five and a beer, and say what's up. It's that authentic, genuine connection, which is way deeper. It's like DNA shit, which is quite cool because it makes you feel more human, even though you're super tech. It's cool.
Yeah, and like even last year, one of the things that our people told us is they'd lost a lot of a connection to our annual plan and where we were going, and so and part of that just that task focus. So one of the things we did last year was actually we turned the business plan into a game of snakes and ladders.
Dude,
and
your work sounds dope, man. I'm technically unhireable, and I think I'd be horrible at jobs, but I just like all these cool little things. I want to get mail and chocolate and shit in the mail. It'd be great. So how did you do that?
Well, so we took Snakes and Ladders board and we made it that the snakes were the things that we should have done better for our team, and the ladders were the things that went awesome. And then you landed on a strategic goal, and we talked about what would be different in your role. But really critically, we went and ran that with either myself or a member of the senior exec in 30 cafes throughout New Zealand. And we had over 80% of our work from home staff came and had a coffee in a cafe to play Snakes and Ladders and connect. And so I think if you're throwing your workforce work from home, you've got to think about how you maintain that physical contact. Because actually that's where the hearts and minds, and that's where the real why gets, and the real two-way engagement. And so that's one of my greatest learnings was thinking about how do we scale out face-to-face contact, kai tai to bluff, and encourage that. And so we do regional Christmas functions. We really purposefully aim to bring our people together.
I was just thinking you're describing that, and that's very instinctual and cultural to the DNA of your business, right? And I look at right now, every single person is using the same software tools, the same pieces, right? So what's the differential? How do you create culture digitally? How do you scale that care remotely? How do you bring a personality to work? Because even if people shift from business to business, you're still using those same tools, whether it be Slack or whatever. But how do you integrate? How do you, almost, send culture remotely? That's cool.
Yeah, and you've got to have purpose and be a bit different. And look, people say to me, well, how does that result in, how does it save money and things? What I can hand on heart say is that our program looking at how we connect with our at-home workforce has fundamentally reduced turnover, sick leave, and improved staff engagement. So
that's a cost.
If anyone's sitting at home saying, "Oh, that's very expensive," and that sounds too hard, that internal comms work program has fundamentally driven cost out of our business and enabled us to do more for New Zealanders in that new capacity.
That Snakes and Ladders thing, did you come up with that, or did you snake that from some Google smart shit? What was that?
It was a couple of my team. We were kind of joking about how could we play a board game that everyone could play. The team brainstormed it up. Yeah, I'm happy to send it to anyone that drops me a line.
Mate, like template that up. Send it to me. You should template it up. Put your flipping logo on it. I think that's great. So many business owners would definitely use it. Before we go, I've got a question here from Adrian. Hi, Andrew. What do you think the biggest barriers are to adopting digital workers to help support the expansion of digital healthcare in New Zealand? Bam.
Oh, can you repeat the question for me?
Hi, Andrew. What do you think the biggest barriers are to adopting digital workers to help support the expansion of digital healthcare in New Zealand?
Look, I think one of the challenges in healthcare, and I'm very clear, we're an inside-out transformer, not an outside-in disruptor. So, maintaining. So I think the public's desire and expectation for digital transformation in the health sector is ahead of the system's ability to develop processes and systems to do that in a clinically safe way. Certainly what we've seen through COVID-19, though, is we've seen much quicker adoption of digital technology in in the system, and we've probably adopted a lot of practice from overseas. So I actually think it's about the sector and the system working really closely with those digital transformers so we can understand each of our paradigms and find ways to work through how to do some of that digital transformation and virtualization safely. I don't think you'd find anyone in the health sector that doesn't want to do things differently to meet better outcomes for people. But there are some just pragmatic stuff that we need to be able to work through.
Mega, man. I know you're super busy, man. You've got a whole bunch of shit. You've got 1,100 people right now that are just screaming for your attention and play snakes and ladders and shit. Where can people go? What can they do if they want to connect with you or the work that you're doing, or if they're in a funky spot and they potentially need help on that mental side or commercial, or community side or anything? Where are some of the, I guess, resources and outlets that they could engage with your services at?
Look, probably just hit me up on LinkedIn and I can attempt to steer you to a place that will deal with your specific need.
Mellow. Appreciate your time, bro. Good yarns. Good yarns. Yeah. Good thinking. It's cool. It gets me. How old are you, bro? You're not even that old. What's your deal?
Oh, look, I am. So my deal is that. So I'm in my mid-30s, which we don't talk about. But
so I want to talk about. I reckon it's dope. It's like you're one of those 3s and 4s that became the 1 and 2, and obviously early CEO before 30. You're obviously a weapon. You know what you're flipping doing. It's rad because there's a switch happening, and I've been talking about it for ages. Where there's going to be this squeeze, and the squeeze is the 35 to 40 that's old enough, that's done enough, that has got credible enough to sit in the room, but still young enough that knows what's up. And it's a squeeze. Yeah. I'm at the younger end of the squeeze. I'm at 34. Most of my other crew at 39, 42. But like, that's so dope, bro. You must feel. Is your mum stoked?
My mum. So I grew up in the Wairarapa, son of a potato farmer. Started my life in healthcare. Did my first work with the ambulance service at age 15. It is not cool to wear your St. John Youth uniform to college.
Bro, flex on him with that St. John's things.
But look, the key thing for me was kind of seeing what failed health and social care looks like in New Zealand. And I made a commitment that I wanted to spend my life. I want Aotearoa to be the best country in the world to grow up in. And so what I want to do is make sure that I'm in the place where I can lead that out for an organization to have the biggest possible impact on achieving that and reducing those barriers to people accessing care. And so that's why I get out of bed every morning. It's awesome. I'm super proud of the team every day and extra proud of what we've been able to achieve so far for New Zealand. We're running 12, 15 times what we'd normally do 8 weeks ago. And it's great to see and support the team in doing that.
Bro, good on you, man. I'm flipping pumped. I love stories like that. It's flipping dope. Young bucks on the hustle, smashing it. Well, your name comes highly recommended from someone who does not piss around at all. And so, which I think we both can appreciate. No, mega, bro. Dude, thanks for your time, brother. Love your work. Keep rocking. And super cool. And congrats on all the nuts and bolts and the great leadership with what you're doing with your business. It's cool when other young bucks look up and see, crew your age doing the types of big shit. It's flipping great, man. Props to you, dog.
Awesome. Hey, kia ora koutou, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat.
Of course, bro. Later, dude.
Cheers.
Peace. What a flipping good bastard. Andrew Slater, what a G. How good's that? See, let it slip at the end. Dude's 34. I'm 34. Flipping weapon. Love that shit. What a boss. How cool is those little leadership things, eh? Snakes and ladders, trying to make some cool shit there. Doing the little intangible, small stuff for family to scale care remotely. I mess with that. Born in the cloud, new digital, tools. I love that. I love the idea of swapping out or bringing in skill sets from a tourism industry which have the same skill sets that could add value into a space which needs it right now. That redeployment of awesome skill sets for New Zealand, that's so cool. I wouldn't have thought of that. But then again, that's why he's the CEO and I am talking shit and drinking whiskey on LinkedIn and Facebook and doing what I'm doing. Awesome. Mega work, team. I love that chat. Young weapons. So dope. Makes me really hopeful for the future of New Zealand. Dude, flipping Andrew's going to go for like health minister or some shit in 8 years. Mark my flipping words. He'll be 40 at politics doing something. You heard it here first. All right. Love your work, team. See you soon. Deuces.